I personally don't think he makes it, okay? I haven't said that. I'm saving it for this big town hall. I personally don't think he makes it. I think he's in bad shape physically. Do you remember when he said, I'd like to take him behind the barn? If he took me behind the barn and I went like this, I believe he'd fall over.
Donald Trump took an early victory lap in Nevada on Saturday, 12 days before he is expected to sweep the state's delegates in the February 8 Republican presidential caucuses. After his victories in Iowa and New Hampshire, the former president held a Commit to Caucus rally in Las Vegas on Saturday afternoon.
I feel sharper now than I did 20 years ago. I really do. I don't know. It's probably not true. It's probably not true. And I think anybody running for president should take an aptitude or a cognitive test.
The former president is still battling Nikki Haley for the Republican nomination as they compete in the February 24 primary in her home state of South Carolina. But in a situation that has proved confusing for many Nevada voters, Trump's and Haley's names are not appearing on the same ballot in two separate Nevada contests, which will take place more than 2 weeks before the South Carolina primary.
3 times now, three. We win it every time. We win the primary, we win the generals, we've won it, and it's a very, very special place to me. It's very important. If you remember in 2016, we came here and we needed that win, and we won by 21 points, and it was great. And today, I have to tell you, it was very interesting because I said, wow, what a great victory. But then somebody ran up to the stage all dressed up nicely when it was at 7, but now I just walked up and it's at 14. But she ran up when it was 7, and you know, we have to do what's good for our party. And she was up and I said, wow, she's doing like a speech like she won. She didn't win, she lost. And you know, last week we had a little bit of a problem, and if you remember, Ron was very upset because she ran up and she pretended she won Iowa. And I looked around, I said, didn't she come in 3rd? Yeah, she came in 3rd.
Trump is now the only major candidate competing in the Nevada caucuses, the contest run by the state Republican Party that will award the state's 26 delegates. With the help of everyone here today, we're going to secure a gigantic win in the Nevada caucuses on Thursday, Trump said, incorrectly stating the date of the February 8 balloting. We're not going to have a lot of competition, I think, but it doesn't matter. We want to get a great, beautiful mandate.
In your state, you have both a primary and you have a caucus. Don't worry about the primary, just do the caucus thing. And we're going to go on to defeat crooked Joe Biden, and we're going to very simply make America great again.
Haley, who was facing a potentially embarrassing loss to Trump in caucuses that are likely to be dominated by GOP base voters loyal to the former president, opted not to compete in that contest. Instead, she placed her name on the ballot in the state-run primary that will take place 2 days earlier on February 6, a contest that Nevada Republican leaders have described as a waste of taxpayer dollars. Haley's vote tally will be largely symbolic because no Republican delegates will be awarded through the primary process.
Look, I think there's 2 America First candidates in this race since the beginning. That was Donald Trump and myself. I do think we need an outsider, a businessman in the White House, to actually lead as a chief executive. The people of Iowa spoke loud and clear. I got about 8% of the vote. I think it would have been something similar in New Hampshire. I wanted to send that vote Donald Trump's direction because we need an America First leader for this movement. And so that's why I made the decision I did. I'm glad Ron DeSantis made the decision that he did. I think it's time for this primary to be over and to go on to a decisive general election victory that's going to be required to reunite this country. And so I felt like I was doing my duty and my part. Well, look, it was when it was that decisive. I do think that now, after going through New Hampshire, it will be a waste of resources. And so speaking as a capitalist, one of the things you look at is resource allocation. I don't think it's good to waste resources of large donors, small donors alike, funding what I really see as a fake race from here on out when the people of this country and of the GOP primary base have spoken loud and clear. I think the essence of what's happening, let's call this spade out for what it is.
Haley, a former UN ambassador and South Carolina governor, is the only remaining major GOP presidential contender on the primary ballot, which all Nevada voters are receiving in the mail. Former Vice President Mike Pence and Senator Tim Scott, RSC, had also planned to compete in the primary, but both have since suspended their campaigns. Primary voters also have an option to choose none of these candidates when they fill out their ballot.
We always knew this would be an uphill battle, but I have no regrets. Now, to the American people, I say this is not my time, but it's still your time. I urge you to hold fast to what matters most: faith, family, and the Constitution of the United States of America.
I think that the timing and manner in which he dropped out of the race might have been surprising. There's some reporting that folks on his team were surprised themselves, but the fact of his departure is not a surprise. It was clear, especially after the last debate, that he was having difficulty breaking through and gaining traction in the polls. In terms of who it benefits, I think there are a couple of ways to look at it. One is from a polling perspective, and the other is from a donor perspective.
Trump told his audience Saturday that the primary was irrelevant. Don't waste your time on primary, waste all of your time on caucus, he said, because the primary doesn't mean anything. Under rules that were designed by Trump allies who control Nevada's Republican Party, presidential candidates were barred from competing in both the state-run primary and the party-run GOP caucuses, and had to choose one or the other. Talk to the people in Nevada. They will tell you the caucuses have been sealed up, bought and paid for a long time. So that's why we got into the primary, Haley said when asked by reporters last week why she wasn't participating in the Nevada caucuses. That's the Trump train rolling through that, but we're going to focus on the states that are fair.
But one that I think is really important. Don't you think it's finally time we had term limits in Washington, D.C.? Don't you think we need to have mental competency tests for anyone over the age of 75? Now listen, I'm not being disrespectful when I say that. I don't care if they do them for 50 and up. We all know people who are over 75 that can run circles around us. That's not the issue. And then we know Joe Biden. These are people making decisions on our national security. These are people making decisions on the future of our economy. We need to know they're at the top of their game. Right now, Congress has become the most privileged nursing home in the country.
Introducing the former president at the rally Saturday, Michael McDonald, the Nevada Republican Party chair, said he had recently talked to Trump. I guarantee you Nevada will show up and we will deliver you 100% of delegates for the state of Nevada to Donald Trump, who is a true leader. Who can the people boldly follow? What can you say about the current government? How much of the question remains in the power of the elderly Biden? This man has destroyed the borders and peaceful life of ordinary citizens. What is it like for those poor people who are afraid of losing their lives because of the influx of migrants into their city? The government turns a blind eye to this madness and cannot answer our questions.
We're here in El Paso, Texas, where thousands of migrants have been entering the country illegally. After they enter the United States, authorities will take them to processing facilities, and then it appears that a lot of them end up here on the streets of downtown El Paso, where they choose which state to go to. We've been asking a lot of them here at the bus station, where are you going? Where are you from?
De Colombia.
Colombia? ¿Dónde va?
A Chicago.
¿A dónde va?
A Nueva York. A Venezuela.
¿Dónde va?
A Denver. Vengo de Venezuela.
¿Dónde vas?
Voy a Denver, Colorado.
Denver. ¿A dónde viene?
¿A dónde vengo? De Venezuela. De Venezuela. Nos vamos a Denver para que nos logren apoyar, ayudar con unos boletos para ir a nuestro destino que es New Jersey.
Where are you going?
Ahorita voy a Denver. Y de Denver voy a un refugio que nos están regalando, nos están apoyando. Oye, ahí mismo en Denver, para los pasajes para Nueva York.
President Biden said he does not believe the border is secure, adding that has been his stance for the past 10 years as he has continued to ask for money. House Republicans are continuing with their push to impeach Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, a move Biden said he does not understand, even though he admits the border is not secure. Fox News White House correspondent Jackie Heinrich asked Biden if he thought it was unconstitutional that House Republicans were trying to impeach Mayorkas, to which the president responded with a confused look. Heinrich also asked Biden if he believed the border was secure. "No, it's not," Biden said. "I haven't believed it for the last 10 years, and I've said it for the last 10 years. Give me the money." He was then asked if he believed his policies have enabled any portion of the crisis at the border. "No, I've asked for thousands more. Of everything, from judges to..." Anyway, Biden said.
And the move to impeach Alejandro Mayorkas isn't because the border is a mess. It's because he said the border is not a mess right now. And these lawmakers feel like they have been lied to by him. So in the articles of impeachment, you've got Article 1, willful and systemic refusal to comply with the law. And then Article 2 is a breach of public trust. The House Speaker, Mike Johnson, is saying this vote to impeach him is going to happen as soon as possible. And Speaker Johnson is one of the most outspoken voices against the bipartisan Senate negotiations on the border. But he's taken incoming, Speaker Johnson, from the White House before 7 on a Monday. They just pointed out in a new memo that Johnson once said he only thinks Congress had the authority to tighten border security. Now Johnson says President Biden should be doing more. But this Senate bill everybody's been talking about that appears like it's dead on arrival is at the heart of President Biden's claim that he can do something quickly and on his own.
If that bill were the law today, I'd shut down the border right now and fix it quickly. A bipartisan bill would be good for America and help fix our broken immigration system and allow speedy access for those who deserve to be here.
Earlier this month, Biden was slammed by critics for his comments about doing something at America's southern border, which is facing unprecedented levels of illegal immigrant crossings. Sources with U.S. Customs and Border Protection told Fox News Digital that migrant encounters hit a staggering 300,000 incidents in December 2023, reaching a level though unimaginable just years ago. It is the highest total for a single month ever recorded, and also the first time migrant encounters have exceeded 300,000.
Listen, one resolution he didn't say that we were all hoping for maybe was that we would secure our border, right? Didn't we kind of expect him maybe to say that was going to be his resolution? Maybe not. Well, in either case, whether it's his resolution or not, the truth is this month, December of this year, more than 300,000 migrants have crossed our border. That is a record and a threshold we've never touched before. That puts us at 785,000 more than our fiscal year to date. So that's just back to October 1. So that's just over the last 3 months. So that's where we are with our open border that those in the White House would have you believe is somehow secure.
Well, I don't think it was going to be his New Year's resolution because this is entirely intentional. This is as planned. The only problem is he doesn't want us to see those numbers and draw attention to it. Frankly, if you're not watching Fox News, you're not likely to see those numbers. They just don't talk about it on the other networks.
And that's such an important point. But for the great reporting for Bill Maloogian, I spent a lot of time in Eagle Pass and others, in our drone team, Fox's drone flight team, that were there, lonely, when even there wasn't a reporter there, showing the numbers coming across, so much so that CNN, MSNBC now covered this headline in the last hour and a half. I got a call from my CBP source that puts these numbers out, that there are now more than 302,000 migrant encounters, a number never thought imaginable.
President Joe Biden announced during his surprise trip to Ukraine on Monday that the U.S. will be providing nearly $500 million in additional security assistance to the country amid its ongoing war with Russia. The package includes additional rocket system ammunition, mortar and artillery rounds, radar equipment, anti-armor weaponry, 4 Bradley fighting vehicles, 2 tactical vehicles for equipment recovery, Claymore anti-personnel mines, demolition munitions, night vision equipment, communication communications equipment, medical supplies, spare parts, and other field equipment. According to the Department of Defense, the package is valued at up to $460 million and will be the Biden administration's 32nd drawdown of equipment from DoD inventories for Ukraine. It's not okay when your country is under threat, but you sponsor a huge amount of money to help another country. Former President Trump slammed the U.S.-Mexico border deal as a catastrophe waiting to happen in a flurry of Truth Social posts written on Saturday. In a Saturday morning post, Trump called the southern border the worst in the history of the world and alleged that the U.S. might suffer from another terrorist attack.
We had the safest border in U.S. history 3 years ago. We didn't need anybody's help. Today we have a catastrophe waiting to happen. It's a terrible situation. Never had anything like it before. It's the worst border anywhere in the history of the world, and I believe that includes other countries. There's never been a country where millions and millions of people are able to flow in. They have record number of terrorists now pouring into us. Same report, record number of terrorists coming into our country. And there's a 100% chance that there will be a major terrorist attack in the United States, or many attacks maybe. And it's all because of what's happened over the last 3 years.
Just 3 years ago, we had the strongest and safest border in U.S. history, Trump wrote on Truth Social. Today, we have a catastrophe waiting to happen. It is the worst border in the history of the world, an open wound in our once great country. Terrorists are pouring in, unchecked, from all over the world. There is now a 100% chance that there will be major terror attacks in the USA. Close the border. Trump continued his messaging to Republicans in Congress that they should abstain from reaching a bipartisan deal addressing the southern border. A bad border deal is far worse than no border deal, Trump wrote in another post on Truth Social.
Willie, good morning to you. Senate negotiators have been inching closer to a border security deal after months of work here, but it could all unravel with former President Trump urging Republicans not to do a deal, prompting talk about blocking an agreement so that voters can blame President Biden for its failure and credit Mr. Trump with getting a deal if he wins the election. Now, the former president embracing the fallout, really, for his attempts to sabotage the deal.
I noticed a lot of the senators are trying to say respectfully they're blaming it on me. I said, that's okay, please blame it on me, please, because they were getting ready to pass a very bad bill.
He said that the border has become a weapon of mass destruction and that the U.S. went from having the best border in history to worst in just 3 years, referring to the timeline since President Biden took over the Oval Office. The former president's stance on the current Senate negotiations over giving aid to Ukraine and other countries and addressing the border is giving lawmakers trouble in reaching an agreement. It has also upset lawmakers on both sides as they deal with the former president's influence over the Republican Party. Haley cast herself as a reasonable alternative to Trump, a traditional Republican who could attract never-Trump GOP voters and independents. The problem with this approach is that most Republican voters do not want an alternative to Trump. They overwhelmingly back him. Polling shows Trump even leads Haley in her home state of South Carolina. Haley's campaign suffers from an identity crisis. She presents herself as a moderate, and yet on issues like immigration, she echoes Trump's hardline positions, including mass deportations of undocumented migrants and finishing the border wall. She declared that America has never been a racist country, despite recounting discrimination that she experienced growing up. While she called for a national consensus on abortion, her vague stance on reproductive rights confused voters. She questioned whether Trump was mentally fit for office and criticized him for too many lies. Yet she also suggested that, if elected, she would pardon him. And despite Trump's bigoted attacks on her heritage, like calling her by a mangled version of her birth name, Haley told CNN's Donna Bash that she would vote for him if he became the Republican nominee.
4 short days to what could be the most important day of Nikki Haley's political career, at least so far. The New Hampshire primary, to which her campaign has pointed as a potential display of viability, of electability. And yet, she's stuck getting a 3rd, 4th, 5th crack at explaining why she doesn't think the United States, which allowed slavery for its first 90 years, has ever been a racist country. Watch.
First of all, I will tell you, when you look at, the Declaration of Independence, it was that men are created equal with unalienable rights, right? And my parents would always say, you may have challenges. And yes, there will be people who are racist, but that doesn't define what you can do in this country.
You're talking about the ideals of America, but America was founded institutionally on many racist precepts, including slavery.
But when you look at said all men are created equal, I think the intent was to do the right thing. Now, did they have to go fix it along the way? Yes, but I don't think the intent was ever that we were going to be a racist country. The intent was everybody was going to be created equally. And as we went through time, they fixed the things that were not all men are created equal.
How does any of this add up to a coherent message? Over the last few months, Haley has alternated between being a principled conservative and a Trump sycophant. In the process, she lost herself and any viable shot at the White House. On a broader level, Haley's failure to launch in the Granite State is more evidence that the GOP is becoming less of a political party and more of a cult of personality. The former president is clearly worth more than the current White House government. If you compare Kamala Harris, who talks a lot but does nothing, and Trump, who backs up his words with actions, there is a clear difference between the current government and the one who was in office before. Follow the latest news on our channel and don't forget to comment on this video clip.